Hello everyone, this is Cookies, and I've got turn 2 of Lucid's tournament game. This is for game 2 of round 2. And we've got profit declarations, and then hopefully I remember to cover the mods for this game this time. We got our first message is from TNG. Hello Cookies. I have rolled the perfect turn 1, which is probably less than a 5% probability. My dom spread to the farm to my northwest, and it happens to be the highest farm roll possible, over 400 gold. This is a great way to start off round 2. We shall see if good fortune continues and I don't suicide my pretender on a blind expansion. Okay. And we get some profit names. So man has Norden Meterson of toxic masculinity. All right. Agartha has number 2 Dream Atlas sales rep. Profit of number 1 Dream Atlas sales rep. So Tlaloc really selling that. Marignon has Rhines the captain of Akelin, the consuming fire. Let's see. Calum has Gaia the storm general of Kaka. Patala's got Buddha Pala? Buddha Pala? Okay, so it's like a little. Alright. It's a play on Patala and Buddha. Feeling a little slow right now, but I got it. Alright. Profit of failed laboratory experiment. TNG. Elon Musk. Of Zhang Zina. Now I'm wondering, what is this also someone? I'm not sure. Okay, and then Satis, we've got On My Mother Effing Plane, known as the Prophet of Motherfucking Snakes. I think he needed to do the reverse to get it to read. Tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. If you wanted it to read that way. That's still one of the few references I get. Goat Lover is the Prophet of Exodus 22:19. Oh no. And then we've got Snuck Cessor, known as the Prophet of Tournament Successor. Oh gosh. And I will try to avoid tripping myself up on tongue twisters in the future. And we've got, I think this is 6 blind expands. Yeah, it's turn 2. So it's got to be a blind expand. Wow. Okay. So let's go ahead and see Marignon. So we've got the much talked about virtue, fire 4, air 4. I've seen a lot of talk about this on the Discord, and I've heard a lot about how good the expansion can be with the virtue, so I'm looking forward to seeing this. And what are we running into? Really basic stuff. Alright, so we've got Mistform, Air Shield. Mistform might be enough on itself. Fireflies. What's the fatigue? 11. And it's got off 5, which is incredible, and then invulnerability 25. And it's also got a built-in flambeau, which is also cool. It's got an armor-piercing magic damage attack with a holy fire effect. That's also armor-piercing and AoE 3. And then I think it also enables, now the magic item, like the built-in item might not, but the magic weapon I believe also provides access to a spell. Alright. So let's go ahead and see this finish clearing up expansion. This should work out fine, unless it eats a very unlucky hit. Alright. Oh, what's the bless? Attack skill +1, shock res, fire res, inspirational, with leadership. Okay. So a little bit of resistances, maybe to help enable later on some Wrathful Skies and Firestorm plays. And then leadership to, I guess, just help the troops along. All right, then with Agartha. Now, if I forget if the friars have any leadership, but maybe he wants to lead a lot of stuff with friars. And so the leadership might enable them to bless groups of knights or flagellants, and while simultaneously leading them around, and then he doesn't have to lead them around with normal commanders. We can take a look at that. Then we've got Dream Atlas Sales Rep with a Dracolich, attacking outside of Dominion, so we don't get to see what the bless is just yet. Also has a lot of invulnerability, but not as much as the Virtue. So this is more like the armor of a knight in terms of protection, whereas the Virtue was like a knight with was it like Legions of Steel on it or something? It was about 25 protection. All right, and this guy's got a Plague Breath though. The other part is they don't have, compared to the Virtue, there's no awe here, but there is a fear effect. It's a big fear aura. So that's how this protection works in, is it just tries to rout the NDs before it dies. And also its buffs, there's probably not going to be a lot of good death buffs this early. So like the Virtue got to add Mist Form, whereas this is eating a bunch of Lance charges. It did get to disperse the Knights a bit, which I think was really important. I think if it had eaten all the Knights at once, it could have taken a lot of damage. So, but this works out. Very nice. Let me go mute my phone, since that felt like beeping. Alright. Then we've got Tianchi in Coast Haven. So we've got the classic cat. And maybe if he did a little alteration, he might have some... Well, it depends if he went for personal regen and enchantment, or if he went for maybe some bark skin and alteration. Oh, but this is 13, so probably the personal regen, and then he should be fine, because it's up at 21 protection with the earth magic. Wait, is it just the earth magic that's making him 21 prot? Damn. Alright, 21 natural protection. No need to get iron skin or bark skin or any of that stuff. Yeah, I think just personal regen and get in there. I don't know that you want the archers, but I get... Interesting. So they were on fire and keep distance, and they lured the heavy cavalry back. This guy does have a Fear 10 aura. Unfortunately, it's lured the cavalry behind the cat. Generally, you want stuff that you want to prioritize killing right in front of you. Oh, and the cat, it has a limp, and it's... You see, so this is the issue with including all those archers, is I think they've gotten an early HP route. So he's going to run off the field, even though he's won this battle. That's unfortunate. Okay, but the important part was the cat did not die. And the second important part to that, aside from the limp, which sucks, is because it's a pretender retreating, it's a guaranteed successful retreat. So I guess now we get to see how much of this stuff got off the field. Yeah, so maybe he meant to include these to eat lance charges. I mean, they did help prevent all the lance attacks from hitting at once, and a lot of the lances got used on these archers. The infantry got to fill in most of the surround. The Firiton aura can go more than one square away. So the archers might have been the only reason that the cat's still alive. But they're also the reason that it routed so quickly. So let's go ahead. Alright, so he's off the field now. So we've got heavy infantry. We've got a number of heavy cavalrymen, but without mounts. I'm not sure if they'll show back up. Maybe one of them will, because there's a mount here. But yeah, most of the heavy infantry. He should be able to clean this up next turn. No big deal. Might not be the amount of tempo that he was hoping to get, but it's not a disaster. Alright, then we've got Calcis. Pyrene attacking out. We've got or hanging out. Alright. I was about to say we've had a lot of expanders. Okay. So he's checking to see what all's here. Nothing too scary. He should be able to kill that. Welladon for Satis. We've got a black dragon. Very cool. Not every day you see a dragon. It's a Earth 5 dragon with a Dragon Bile Acid Breath. We're looking at Reinvig +2. Oh, that reminds me, I should check some of the other blesses. My apologies. Against barbarians, though, on a blind expand, 21 protection is not enough, I don't think. You're really hoping the sphere aura kicks in, or I think this dragon might be toast, or it might fly away. Early fear check. Down to 19 HP. And it routes. Okay. So yeah, almost died there. That was almost a disaster. So, and that was, I think, reinvigoration +2. Right? Okay, and it was inside Dominion. What was TNG's again? Unnatural protection and unaging. That's where the extra protection came in. Okay, I'm sure people were saying check the bless, idiot. Alright, we've got unaging. So that was 5 plus the 3 from Earth Magic. So we've got +8. So yes, 21. Alright. So we've had 2 bounces. And now we've got Agartha in Deep Forest. With a ping. Okay. And he finds a bunch of long dead. Alright. So, my my fort's still bugged out. Oh gosh. Alright. I still think I need to talk to Lucid about this. Alright. Let me log out and log back in and see if I can at least select my stuff. Yeah, so I think Omniscience is still bugged here. It still kind of works. Here, I'll log out and log back in so folks can see. Alright. So, they're supposed to be spawning here, but I can't do anything with them because they're not actually on the map. So I think they're tied to some maybe like incorrect pixel somewhere, but I can't tell them to preach, which is what I really want to do, because an Omniscience has been dom killed before due to events, and I can't have them patrol. So I think my province is just completely bugged out. So I'll have to let Lucid know. And then, But yeah, other than that, let's go through the mods really quick for turn 2. So we've got gem longevity. This is a pretty simple mod command. It's a very small mod file. All it does is there to kind of lessen the effects of gem baiting. Because you could gem bait in the magic phase with your stuff, with independent stuff. People you're allied to could also magic phase to gem bait, and then you could fight the actual battle. There were ways to make sure that an opposing army could not cast the spells that they wanted to cast. Especially deep in the late game where this stuff was more prevalent, and it was particularly nasty to armies relying on stuff like Master and Slave. So what this does is, if you get gem baited, the gems become temporary gems for all subsequent battles for the rest of the turn. And so you can still be gem baited, but now it costs someone a piece of territory, so a province, because they can only do it once per turn. And they can't do it in the same turn. So they have to plan out the gem baits a little bit more. So this is a quality of life mod, so you don't have to do quite as much gem muling with scouts and whatnot to keep armies going. Because another thing is, in the late game against good players, you expect them to gem bait, so you have to bring all the gems that your army might need for a particular turn every single turn. And what that meant is either people had to overinvest into temporary gem gen items, which meant they can only field 1 or 2 armies, or they could only field 1 or 2 armies because they had to gem meal scouts in with gems every turn to be able to field that army. So this just helps lessen some of those effects. And it wasn't just all the gems the army would need for one battle in a turn with gem burning, because it could be like 3, 4, 5 times. You had to just load people up with gems. And so between this mod command and between Dominion 6 having an increased capacity of 40 gems, this helps a lot. So, because now your army only uses all the gems it would use once per turn. You don't have to plan out several battles per turn to keep an army going. All right. Then we've got improved casting AI. This is Lucid's casting AI mod. All this does is kind of bias mages towards casting evocations rather than buffs. The idea is you might want to script your buffs earlier on using your script slots. And then ideally your mages are doing a few more evocations going over the course of the battle. I personally really like this mod. I know there's a lot of people who don't like the mod. But I personally really like this mod. I've had instances with the vanilla casting AI where I have a big astral communion and I'm fighting an army filled with magic weapons, and all they do is spend all of their fatigue for the communion painting body ethereal over my whole army, and it doesn't do anything. And when they could have instead been doing soul slay, paralyze, enslave mind, any other stuff. I'd rather them even do smite than cast body ethereal frequently. Now, on the flip side, there are times where you might want off-script body ethereal casting, especially if you're assaulting a fort. But normally I can get enough manually scripted body ethereal casts for storming a fort that I'm not as concerned about wanting it off script versus the other situation. And then another case where that happened was I had an army where I scripted a communion and all I wanted it to do was kill a Melkart. And all it did was put body ethereal on the communion until the Melkart killed the communion. And that was just really annoying. So, yeah. So, personally, I don't like playing without this mod. I understand why people like the vanilla experience and the vanilla casting more. I understand differences in preference and opinion, but I find the game much more enjoyable with this mod. So I generally only play with it. All right, then we've got the Omniscience Clockwork mod. So this is supposed... I have a feeling this might not be completely working right now because obviously I can't see Omniscience right now. So we'll maybe have to take a look at this. Then we've got Lucid's Thematic Gem Gen, which enables... It just adds a bunch of new items that allow for temporary gems to be added to mages. And these new items are in a similar pricing structure to the current temporary gem gens, and the only purpose is to make late game a little bit easier to micro and manage, because if you decide you're willing to pay that price, you can add those items to your army, and then you don't have to ferry gems for those casters. We've got Repop the Dead, another pretty small mod. This is because sometimes you get really unlucky and you spawn and you've got a bunch of ghouls or long dead provinces or soulless provinces around you. And in vanilla, when those spawn, I think they remove 80 or 90% of the population in the province, so the provinces are effectively worthless. So if you watched False Gods Baratos campaign or my Machaka campaign where we played Disciples together, and I got a bunch of these provinces around in my cap circle, and my cap circle was really terrible that whole game, this would help alleviate that a little bit. Because all it does is it makes it a normal province once you clear the undead. We've got Thematic Capitals. This is what allows for random spawns on the Map Nuke map. Often Map Nuke maps need specific spawn points, and so you can look at the map file and know where people spawned if you want to do that. What this does is it avoids that by making the spawns random, and then when someone spawns in, it changes the terrain of that province to fit what the capital or that nation would want for its capital. So it's pretty nice. And then we've got Thematic Temperature Resistance. That one's also another pretty small mod. Certain nations like, I think Hinnom and Nabaa and a few other nations, they've got certain terrains for their capital, but the capital population is over what is supported for that terrain. And so they get essentially free death scales on their capital. And so all this does is remove that. It does affect balance a little bit because Abyssia has, for instance, has a built-in counter to this effect, but other nations didn't. So clearly it was intentional, but it's to improve people's enjoyment of the game. So there's that bit. And then we've got Trusty Research, which is, let me see. That one is just some Wisp that spawn turn 1. So it's an optional mod that lets you direct your starting research rather than having random research assigned to you based on your magic scales. So, and then we've got Worthy Heroes. This one definitely affects balance quite a bit, but I think it's generally just considered a fun mod to have. I know there was some debate about whether or not it's appropriate for a tournament, but I think first and foremost, it's not a money tournament, it's a bragging rights tournament. So having a fun mod like Worthy Heroes where you just add a bunch of additional cool units to the game, it seems fine. So I like playing with worthy heroes. I think it makes the game more fun. You have more special units, more impactful units with lore. Uh, can it break some of the balance of certain nations if you get certain heroes early? Absolutely, but I'm generally okay with it. It is a little bit of a buff to luck scales, so it's just something to consider. And then if there's a black bar showing up in this recording, I think it's because my toolbar moved, and I think I've forgotten to move it back potentially. So let me see if I can fix that. Okay, so maybe that fixed the black bar. We'll test it out. So I moved the there's two different games I play. There's this and there's Rivals, and I keep forgetting to move the toolbar around when I stop playing Rivals. I think it might be because I forgot to put the toolbar back, but then the screen I think is bigger than what OBS wants to allow me to record, and maybe in terms of resolution. I'm not sure. There might be some scaling I can do to try and fix that without changing the toolbar. Anyways, it's this whole thing, but hopefully it's fixed now towards the end of this video. And if that fixes that, then I'll try to keep remembering to do that for the future. So feel free to leave a comment if that fixed it for you. And yeah, so that's all the mods. I know it's a whole bunch of mods, but a lot of them are pretty small. Most of them are quality of life mods. And that's what we're playing with. I just need to get this mod fixed. Now, if we take a look at expansion really quick, we see the Dracolich took a farm, a really nice farm, actually. So 35,000 population. That'll be even better once he gets his... No, he did get his Dominion in there. And then we've got... We've got the TNG attack into Coast Haven, which is 40k pop. Looks like some of these farms are definitely better than other ones. Yeah, this one's not as good for Atlantis. We've got Cetis. And yeah, so but I don't think we saw any of these pretenders die. Cetis definitely came close, but it routed just in time. So good thing. And yeah. Oh, there were two traps for him. So if he'd gone, so he might want to go to one of these three next and probably skip the barbarians. All right, but yeah, I think that's it for this one. And I will go ahead and call this episode done. I know this was a little bit longer. I wanted to get some of this stuff knocked out in the first couple of turns. And that way we can just enjoy the gameplay. So I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.